Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
I'm not going to play decoder here. It's not my job to decipher and help out New Mexico State, Auburn, and Texas with what A&M is trying to do at the running back spot, considering Le'Veon Moss is done for the year. But I think yesterday, Coach Elko kind of presented a situation where it's like, look, we're looking at all options. And we're going to hear that soundbite here in a minute. But we're not going to help the others. Like, I think what they'll do is they'll put Dalton Brooks back there. No. At least I'm not going to do that. We're going to just say, this coach, he's working on things. And that can mean 100 things. It could mean using Marcel Reed more. It could mean Amari Daniel. Maybe there's a part of E.J. Smith's game we haven't seen yet. Maybe then we'll put Terry Bussey there. We'll see.
I think all those things are possibilities and even probabilities. I do think you're going to see Marcel Reed more in the running game. And I do think, of course, Amari Daniels is going to just step into that role and see if he can play the way he played against South Carolina. And I do think you'll see Terry Bussey, maybe not at running back, but carrying the ball more and doing all kinds of things to spread the wealth a little bit with the carries.
So let's listen to Coach Elko yesterday, breaking down. He was, I think, it was the very first question of the press conference. What they're going to do at running back.
I continue to try to be vague as you try to get me to give away the game plan, but I think we're gonna. A lot of things are on the table. I think we've got to, obviously, losing Le'Veon's a big loss. That's a lot of touches. We're gonna have to figure out the right way to handle that, and I think there's a lot of different opportunities and options for us to go about it. Amari is certainly one. EJ is certainly one. There's other ways that we can do that. We can throw the ball more. There's other people we can use, and so I think all of that is very much on the table moving forward. But I think just the way we look at it is, we've got to replace a lot of production, and I don't think you can replace it the same way. I don't think we certainly don't have a back that's going to step in and be what Le'Veon is to kind of go along with what we had from Amari and what we had from EJ already. And so we just got to figure it out. A big part of it's going to fall on Amari, and then we'll see where the rest of it goes.
So to me, what you're for sure missing, not only is your best offensive player, is your bell cow, a guy that you rely on for short yardage situations, a guy you go to. But if you look at the numbers throughout the year, there were stretches where Amari Daniels got
absolutely
several carries, right? And then sometimes we'd be like, wow, EJ's out there. Where's Le'Veon? Because they were spreading out the wealth a little bit. It's not like he was getting 25 carries a game.
Right. And a lot of times they bring in Amari on short yardage.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish they hadn't, like against South Carolina. Yeah. But they did. I didn't have other options at that point. So, look, like you said, Le'Veon's a big loss. I think he was your offensive MVP. But they do have the ability to replace that production to some degree. Not saying completely. What's really important moving forward is that with Le'Veon's loss, the defense has to raise its level of play and play like we thought this defense would be. And sometimes they have, like against Arkansas, against Missouri most of the time. But
Mississippi State second half, for sure.
Second half, so be that defense and be it for the next 3 games, 4 games, 5 games.
I think we're going to see a lot more screens than we've seen. I think more opportunities for Marcel to fake out the defense. Is he running? Is he passing? I think he and Amari, these last 7 days, let's say, and also this week, working on their exchange because it looked prettier with Marcel and Le'Veon.
Well, I'll say this. I think it's obviously you didn't want to lose Le'Veon. But if it had to happen, it happened at the right time.
Right.
Because you've got an open week, and then you got a weak opponent. And I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say that, but New Mexico State's a weak opponent. Your backups beat New Mexico State.
I think people believe A&M can win at Auburn and beat Texas, right? I'm skipping over New Mexico State. They think they can, but I think they will believe it way more after Auburn if the running game doesn't take a significant step back without Le'Veon. If you go to Auburn, you control the line of scrimmage, still all an if, and you're able to run the ball effectively and get short yardage situations, then I think you're like, oh, coming back to Kyle Field, we feel much better. But if you go to Auburn, you win that game, but you struggle running the ball, I think that's where a little bit of the optimism will evaporate.
Yeah, it will. And my answer to that is, and hopefully it won't. I mean, it's a late game. And I'm saying in Birmingham, so I'm hoping it's one of those games that is decided by halftime, and I'm right. But if it's not, I'm reminding every game's different.
Yep.
So
you cannot look at South Carolina, copy and paste that formula in it to work out at Auburn or Texas. You just can't. And just like Missouri.
And the thing I keep going back to, if we want to look at it offensively against South Carolina, a really good defensive team. And if I can take, and you can't, but if I can take the interception early in the fourth quarter away, they played almost the whole game without Le'Veon.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in a position to cut that to a one-score game against a really good defensive team.
The best defensive line they'll face the rest of the way.
Right. So when I look at South Carolina, yes, there are offensive concerns, but they didn't lose that game because of the offense. Right. They lost it because of the defense. So if you can repair your defense, I think your offense is still going to be good enough.
But do you think, well, the Texas offense is better than South Carolina's, for sure. I mean, they haven't played defenses of South Carolina's ilk, but that's for sure. Auburn's offense, you look at their numbers, they move the ball.
Auburn has some, not at quarterback, but besides at quarterback, they have some really impressive skill talent.
They do.
I like their receivers, their running back.
Jarquez
Hunter, I know it's a J, had 270 yards rushing against Kentucky.
Yeah. A team that is known to stop the run.
Right. So, they had, now, obviously there's some issues. The next week they scored, 7 points against Vanderbilt.
Right.
So Peyton Thorne struggles at quarterback, and I think their offensive line.
He was the worst quarterback they faced last year.
Yeah, probably.
He was terrible in that game.
He was. And then the offensive line, I think they have trouble, and their defense it's just has issues.
By the way, we're TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's go to another soundbite because I've heard from many people about this soft schedule that A&M has. I've read it. I've seen it. Oh, you guys have a cakewalk of a schedule. You guys got a cakewalk. And they make that sound afterwards. Coach Elko did not address that, but he did kind of allude to how difficult their schedule is compared to the others in this same pack. So let's listen to this.
When you say that, though, here's a unique piece of this because we talk about this, and I think we do this based off brands, not off win-losses. If you look at our combined winning percentage of all of the teams at the top, we have the third hardest schedule of all the teams at the top, and that's 7 or 8 of them. And so, I don't know where the perceived ease. Yeah, the home part for sure. But you know what I mean? We still, I think when you look at the win-loss percentage, when you look at the fact that we're the only team that's played an out-of-conference playoff team, we've had a lot of opportunities at home. That's a big piece of it for sure. And I think anytime you get those big moments in Kyle, that's an advantage for you for sure. I'm not stepping away from that at all. It just doesn't feel like an easy schedule. It hasn't felt like an easy schedule. I think anytime you play in the SEC as a coach, the word easy never comes to mind. And so I think what our kids have done is they've gone out into some big moments, into some big opportunities, Missouri, LSU, and played the way you wanted them to keep this thing going in the direction you wanted to. Played in games against Notre Dame and South Carolina, not exactly the way we would have hoped, and kind of eliminated our margin for error. But I think we've managed some pretty big moments. You could see by the primetime games we've played. It's been nice to have a lot of them in Kyle, for sure.
The interesting thing about what he said there, beyond the schedule itself, the 2 losses, catastrophic, fourth quarters.
Yes.
The wins, let's go through them. Phenomenal fourth quarter against Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal 4 quarters against Missouri. All four,
Yeah.
right? Mississippi State, much better second half. I don't know if they finished the fourth quarter as well, but okay.
It was a phenomenal defensive second half.
Second half, there we go. Where else am I looking?
LSU, phenomenal second half.
And great fourth quarter as well, right?
The whole second half,
Yeah.
though.
So as it always is in the SEC, because you can look back the last 4 years, it comes down to a few plays in the fourth quarter. The South Carolina game comes down. I know the blowout feels differently. It comes down to a couple plays in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, again, that interception. If not the interception, it's going to be a 1-score game. They're either going to kick a field goal or score a touchdown. They're at the 28. It was first down at the. So yeah, but you did, and then the last 2 touchdowns. The game was already decided, and everybody knew it. So it looks worse than it was. But okay, you gave them up. What I don't get is why you look at A&M's win over LSU, and so now it's dismissed. LSU did beat Ole Miss.
Yes, they did.
Ole
Miss, who was your favorite to win the SEC.
Yeah. So they did beat Ole Miss,
or at least to get to Atlanta.
And then you look at Missouri, and people are dismissing that one, and you're like, well, they beat Missouri with what's his name, the quarterback. There's
Brady Cook.
Brady Cook. Started calling him Brad. That's not right. Brady Cook starting. The next week, Brady Cook got hurt, and they almost lost. I can't even remember who they almost lost to. Somebody that's not that good. But then Brady Cook came back.
Yes, that's right.
And led them to a win. And then he's missed the next 2 games. So when you look at, you can say, yeah, but Missouri got pounded by Alabama, and they probably would have anyway. I would have picked Alabama over Missouri. But not having your starting quarterback in that game makes a difference. So you look at Missouri, and people dismiss it. They were number 9 in the country when A&M played them. And people were dismissing them because they barely beat Vanderbilt. Well, Vanderbilt turns out to be a pretty good team. And, and they still have only lost. Missouri's 7-2.
Yeah.
So everybody say, oh, they're
Missouri's probably a 9-win team.
They're probably going to win 9 games. Yeah.
And
maybe even 8. Maybe Arkansas is going to be. Arkansas might beat Texas this week.
Is Taylor Green healthy? What's the latest with him?
I'm assuming he is. He played last week.
If he's healthy, I give Arkansas, as long as, because I do believe momentum is a thing. And there was a point in this season where I'm like, Arkansas is kind of feeling themselves.
Arkansas is far and away. I mean, you can look it up, go to college football, CFB stats.com and look at offensive, total offense team. Arkansas is far and away the best offensive team Texas will have faced this year. I mean, it's not even close. I think they're ranked 5th. Now, a lot of that is skewed because what you did against Pine Bluff, and you put up some big numbers against Oklahoma State, and you put up big numbers in a loss to Ole Miss.
And Texas has got some skewed numbers as well.
Yeah, especially defense. I know we're not supposed to be talking about this yet, but I just look at Texas's defense. I know they're like number 2 in the country, but I say, who have you played?
Right.
They played some of the worst offensive teams in the country where everybody shut them down, not just Texas. So I'm just not sure what that means. So when like you said, when you look, you can put everybody's schedule under the microscope. And I'd say, well, what about, for instance, Texas's schedule? Okay, your big out-of-conference game was
Michigan.
Well, they're terrible.
Yeah, but the way I look at the Michigan game is kind of how I look at the Missouri game.
Okay.
Now, Missouri is going to be significantly better than Michigan when it's all said and done, partially because of their schedule. But I want to look at that Missouri game as a top 10 win for A&M. But then when I talk about Texas, I'm like, but that's not really a top 10 Michigan team.
Yeah, but Missouri is still 7-2.
This is true.
Michigan is 5-5 and lucky to be that.
And they're probably going to lose at least.
Well, they still got Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I think they're at best. I don't know who they play this week or the next two, but they're at best probably a 6-6 team.
Yeah, that's the Michigan story. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up at 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms hotline, or you can text us on the Little Sluggers text line. OB, we're currently in the holistic planning cool zone.
Cool zone.
So cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. What can you do?
You know what would be cool?
What's that?
Investing in a
pro sports team.
That'd be pretty cool.
Can you imagine?
Hey, yeah, I'm a part owner.
Yeah. Can you imagine walking into like the Republic one day and just like the Edmonton Oilers? They're my team. Are they still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good hockey team.
The Toronto Argonauts. Olin Buchanan, co-owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. You with 1,000 other people. You can do that with investinprosports.com.
Yeah, you can. Probably even get. You probably have to pay them in American money and not Canadian currency.
Well, this is true.
Yeah.
Let's talk to a man who loves America, Nick Savage, who is behind the glass. Nick, America.
Correct. Just going back to y'all's schedule talk, we talked about this the other day, I believe, as well. Just like it's when you look at the schedule in hindsight, we always tend to go like, oh, well, we know who LSU is now. Oh, we know who Missouri is now, right? But it's like when we played them, they were that 8th ranked team or 7th or 8th ranked team, whatever they were. Doesn't matter what they are now. That's what they were. So, I mean, I think that has to go into it when we evaluate schedules for everybody, not just A&M. And
so
I
you think
we do
the
a good job of
Michigan
that,
victory for Texas at the time, we should look at them as a top 10 team?
Not necessarily. Yes, I see what you're getting at, but we should give them credit for going on the road and beating a top 10 team. But that's the tricky part, I guess, when it comes to like evaluating playoff resumes and all that. How much stock do you put in what they are now versus what they were?
I would look and say, are they a factor in their conference championship races?
So what I think too many people do is they look at things one-dimensional, right? As opposed to there are storylines with teams. Injuries, change of quarterback, momentum changes things. So I look at it as a snapshot in time, but I can also look at the other data points to tell me. I know for a fact Michigan's a bad team. I think Missouri is not as good as they were when they were given a top 10 ranking based on last year, but they're still a top 25 team with the best receiving core, if not the best, one of the best receiving cores A&M has faced this year, and a team that is certainly much better, like most teams,
with their starting quarterback. Yes,
Jinx.
With their starting quarterback.
All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News.
Even though they won last week with Drew Pine.
They did. Came back.
Yeah.
Drew Pine. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kalita Gardner. Callie, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm great. I was looking at the Missouri football schedule, and I mean, we played them obviously, and we beat them. But we look at the game against Vanderbilt. They beat Vanderbilt by 3 points, and so did Texas. So
what you're saying is.
So what I'm saying is no.
A&M may beat them 31-10, something like that.
Who?
Texas.
Beat.
A&M will maybe beat Texas because of what they did. We're using the same logic.
That is my logic.
I'm just looking at that and saying there are those outside of Aggies that I hear. Obviously I hear in national media that are always, well, Texas is going to do this. They project Texas to automatically beat A&M, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying Texas isn't good. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you really look in at their schedule and the way they've won and who they've beaten and the situations that the teams they've beaten were in, we just don't know how good. That's all I'm saying.
Callie, we're going to come back to you in a little bit because we've gone super long, and we've got Justin Lanham already waiting there to talk a little Aggie hoops with us. All right, prizepicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs to get $50 once you play $5 lineups. It's the way to enjoy sports, even if you don't care about what's going on, right? Like, you're watching a game, OB, like, you know what? I'm a little interested in seeing what Luka Doncic, I always say his name incorrectly, what Luka's doing.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say he's going to score more than 35 points, more than. And if you do hit that and a couple others, you're going to make some money.
Yeah, I would take, depending on the team, Luka over 35.
I mean, I'd take him against everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Luka guy.
All right.
All right. By the way, you can do that for 2 to 6 players. Stat projections today is Tuesday, so they have Taco Tuesday. They got a lot of other awesome things you can do. Go to prizepicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs and get those $50 once you play in $5 lineups. I think once you try it, you're going to love it. It's Prize Picks. And we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance, Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Had ourselves a little basketball game yesterday, OB.
Yeah.
Little raining threes, little defense.
It was. Yeah, man, they played good ball.
Good ball. Let's talk about it with an analyst. I don't think I said that correctly. Analyst. We go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Justin Lanham was with us to break it all down. Justin, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Good, man. So tell me your thoughts on what you saw yesterday against Lamar, the threes, the Zurich Phelps, everything about it.
Yeah, obviously Lamar tried to speed us up. They pressed the majority of the game, the whole entire game, I think, really. And so they got after us at the beginning of the game, but it didn't take long for us to kind of turn the tide there. I think it was 6-0 to start the game, and then we kind of got after them. You nailed it. Just raining threes. If we can shoot 46% from three for the rest of the year, if that's what we average, I think we're going to be okay. Especially you pair that with the defense that we play. I think that it's a recipe for success. So obviously we played a little bit faster last night because they were pressing. And so I think that that's the way that Phelps wants to play. When Zurich got in there, he was playing fast. And so, I think that plays into his hand a lot. And so I think that that's why you were able to see him have the success that he did scoring last night.
Yeah, Justin, OB here. Here's my question for you right here. So from your coach's eye, what are you seeing, or are you seeing anything that translates or transfers to playing against better competition? Well, I guess what I'm saying is, look, you've seen the last two games, and they've gone out and they've just dismantled opponents, but you knew you're better than them coming into it. Have you seen anything that makes you say, yeah, this is what they can continue to do against, they'll be successful at this no matter who they're playing? Or do we have to just still say, hey, we don't really know what we've got yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, the old adage of defense travels, I think that's going to be something that's going to translate. But again, until we play, I'll say this, I'm excited to see that Ohio State game. Yep. I'm really excited to see what we can do against them. Obviously, I think the past two games have been really good just for us confidence-wise, shooting the ball, right? I mean, we haven't. How many times in the last couple of years have we seen us shoot the ball that well? I mean, there's been spurts, there's been times, but if we can do that and just kind of gain some confidence, I think that's going to be another thing that can carry on throughout the season. But obviously, like I said, I just really like our toughness and our defense, and I think that's going to carry you throughout the season.
Justin, I'm not saying that Zurich Phelps is Boots Radford, because to be Boots Radford, I mean, that's time. We saw this young man grow into just such a leader and an attacker of the rim. But I watch him and I see a lot of similarities in their game. Maybe the biggest difference to me is he's a little faster going to the rim. I feel like Boots was a little bit more patient going to the rim. Just when you see the comparisons, kind of tell me what you see from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, I see Zurich attacking the rim, and it's not that Boots didn't attack the rim, but Boots was more methodical while he's attacking the rim, right? Kind of got that slow Euro step as he's going to the basket, where Phelps, it feels like he's got one gear, and that's go. And so you saw that last night. The one thing that I will say for Phelps that I think that's going to get shored up, and I think Buzz talked about it in the postgame, is, he's averaging 4 turnovers right now, and I think that you're going to see as he gets a little bit more comfortable in what we're doing, he gets some more practices under his belt, I think you're going to see that come down. And really his turnovers, I'll be honest, as a coach, you don't love them, but also you live with them because for every turnover that he has, he's probably going to do 2 or 3 really great things, right? And so I think you just got to kind of live with that whenever he's playing fast. Yeah, there may be a couple where they're bouncing off his foot. He gets into some traffic and he makes a bad decision, but you also got to realize that he's going to make 2 or 3 other plays after that.
I don't think Wade Taylor here in the early going has taken as many shots as he typically did last year. Do you think that's by design? Do you think it's just the way the game's going? Do you think that's purposeful from Wade himself?
Yeah, I think that's partly because of the lineups you're seeing. I think that some guys are getting some more time, obviously, too. I think Buzz also alluded to that in the postgame as well. He he told Manny before the game, and I think he told Hayden Hefner before the game that Zurich was going to get a few more minutes tonight, and I think that that's purposeful. And so I think as the season goes along, I think you're going to see Wade continue to get back to the amount of shots that he was taking last year. I think right now they're just figuring out who they are, and then Phelps, obviously, I mean, he's going to be a huge part of this offense, but I think that as the season goes on and teams get a scouting report with Wade and Zurich on the court together, I think that a lot of eyes are going to go to Zurich, and I think Wade's going to continue to get more shots. So I think this is kind of an anomaly. I think you're going to start to see some more shots from Wade.
I'm going to give you a long description before I get to my question, but I see, Anderson Garcia's development last year. I don't think it happens the way we saw it if Julius Marble doesn't leave the program, right? But I still think they missed that interior presence that he brought. So now you get Pharrell Payne and Henry Coleman and Anderson Garcia together. Talk to me about that front court, because we got a bigger version of Julius Marble, maybe not the same kind of game, but a guy who can clog up the middle, allow Henry to face up the basket a little bit more. Just kind of talk about the different kind of things we can see from that front court.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting. First off, without Payne last night, we had Henry, we had Solomon, and we had Anderson in the game at the same time with Wade and Zurich. And I thought that was kind of an interesting lineup. I mean, at first I was thinking, man, I don't love it just offensively, but then I looked at it again and I was like, man, if you're playing them, who do you block out, right? I mean, so that gives Wade and Zurich a little bit more freedom to shoot the rock and know that there's a really good chance that we're getting rebounds. I think somebody who has not been talked about much, and I know it's early on in the season, so we haven't talked about him much as it is, but Henry Coleman, what he's doing on the glass right now, I think just so impressive. Every time that he's in the paint, I feel like it's going to be his ball. He's just so strong. And the way that he attacks the glass as far as offensive rebounds has just been phenomenal.
I tell you, I like that bigger lineup with those two guards, and then whether it be Anderson, Farrell, Payne, Solomon, Washington, it just seems like they have more options inside than they've had maybe ever since Buzz has been the coach.
Yeah, and you love it even more. I don't think it's something that we need to rely on, but I think Anderson hit 2 threes last night, if I'm not mistaken. And if guys like that can stretch the floor, I think that you're going to see some big things. CJ Wilcher last night hit 3 threes. I mean, you're just seeing again, I think they're just experimenting so much with this lineup right now. And that's what at times I felt like we were missing last year. It was like, man, who do we go to? But now it's almost kind of the opposite of that. It's like you've got a lot of different options and a lot of directions you can go with this lineup. And so it's a good thing when you're not talking a whole lot about Manny. You're not talking a whole lot about some other guys because some other guys are stepping up, right? And so I think you're just going to see as this season goes on, guys are going to step up in big moments.
Hey, Justin, we appreciate your time, buddy. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate you guys.
Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Live during the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. All right, OB, if I say it in Spanish, you respond in Spanish, okay?
Aye.
All right?
Yeah.
Here we go. ¿Tienes hambre?
Sí.
¿Qué quieres comer?
Sí.
What do you want to eat?
Yeah. 17 out 75 old.
You could have kept that in English. That's fine.
1775.
Is that an accent I hear, Detective?
I don't know what accent that was.
Well, what would you order today on they're not open on a Tuesday. They're open Thursday through Sunday or Saturday. But if you were there, they said, we're opening up special for you. What would you order?
Oh, I would probably have some kind of combination of pork ribs and brisket.
Pork ribs and brisket.
Yeah.
Got to have what side? Choose a side.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to go with the queso mac and cheese.
And if I said today you have to have a dessert, would you take it?
Yeah, I just don't know what it'd be because
they change it.
They change them up. They'll have something special waiting on you.
They are delicious. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Starcer Parkway, Suite C, College Station, Texas 979-492-6241. It is 1775 TXBBQ.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
And we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we find the Hall of Famer, Pro Football Talk, Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
We're doing great. So I think we're doing great. We got a football game, so I can not think about South Carolina for that much longer. Charean, I'm going to do a big question, and then we'll kind of narrow it down. What has happened to Texas football teams in the NFL? I'll let you take it from there.
Oh, boy. Well, the Cowboys obviously didn't do anything in the offseason, and that's coming back to bite them big time. And then injuries have caught up to them. So, they are where they are, and I think Jerry Jones bears a lot of responsibility for that and got him after the game on Sunday, and he took some blame, but, he's right. That doesn't do anything to pacify the fans, and we all know that. And then the Texans, they did a lot in the offseason, and they thought they improved their team, and they're the same team as they were last year, maybe a step down. They're going to win that division, but I don't think any of us expect them to do anything in the postseason the way they're playing right now. And it goes back to the offensive line, just not protecting C.J. Stroud enough to give him time to pass the ball and find his receivers. Now, Nico Collins is coming back this week, we would presume. Thought he would play last week. He'll help. So when they get him back, I think you'll see a difference in that offense, having he and Joe Mixon on the field together, which hasn't happened a whole lot this year.
Shereen, give me one reason to continue watching Dallas Cowboys football the rest of the year.
They could have a high draft pick.
So the guy that we can count on, the guy that drafted Taco Charlton and Mozzie Smith to make a good pick. That's supposed to make me feel better.
Maybe they get Travis Hunter. I mean, that's the hope. The problem I see, Olin, is are they going to continue to do what they've done in free agency since the year after Brandon Carr signed? Because they haven't done anything in free agency since then. I think they got burned by Kyle Orton and Brandon Carr and all the money they spent, those two offensive linemen that they signed. And I think they just decided after that, our new MO is we're going to draft and we're going to re-sign the guys we draft. We're going to draft well enough that's going to be the core of our players. And they have drafted well. I mean, you look at the who they're having to pay. They made CeeDee Lamb one of the highest paid 9 quarterbacks in the league. They're going to have to do that with Micah Parsons, and they made Dak Prescott the most expensive player in NFL history. So, they drafted all those guys. So they've done a decent job of drafting. But if you're not going to supplement with free agents, just like in college football now, let's compare it to that. If you don't go out, Jimbo wasn't willing to go out in the transfer portal. You don't go out and get guys to supplement the transfer portal because you're going to lose guys. You're in trouble. You have to do it. You have to use free agency to your advantage. And the Cowboys haven't done that. So my point is, if they continue not to do that, this is going to be a really long rebuild because the core of your team needs to be the players you drafted, but you still got to go out and supplement with free agents, and you got to spend money in free agency. And if they're not going to be willing to do that, I don't see this team being good anytime soon. It's going to be a really, really long rebuild. And by the way, you've got Dak Prescott tied up for the next 4 years.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, I do want to ask about this because I saw a tweet and I didn't think it was, like a real possibility or a thought, but is there a world where Deion Sanders and Shedeur or Travis Hunter end up with the Cowboys next year?
Or all three?
Well, it's funny because, Clarence Hill, my former coworker at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, has been tweeting, Deion repeatedly says he wants no part of the NFL. Okay, you're telling me he still lives in Dallas area. He lives in Prosper, right near Frisco. He played for the Cowboys. It's America's team. It's the most high-profile job in the world. You're telling me he would turn that down, and I just tweeted that at Clarence. Deion would not turn that out. Now, having said all that, I don't think Jerry offers him because Deion would be more high-profile and take attention away from Jerry, and I don't think Jerry wants that. And there are other reasons too, but that to me is probably the biggest reason is he doesn't want anybody overshadowing him. So does it happen? No. Does it make some sense? Possibly. But, they have a quarterback. If they hadn't signed Dak to what they signed him to, it would make perfect sense. Because I think Shedeur Sanders is going to call a shot. If a team gets the first pick and he doesn't like that team and he doesn't think he can win there, I think he's going to pull an Eli Manning or whoever, John Elway, and he's going to say, I ain't playing there. And if Deion goes to be the head coach somewhere, he's definitely a package deal. So if you hire Deion, it's a reason to hire Deion, then you're also going to probably get Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback. So that would be the enticing thing. for that to happen. Again, they insist he's not going to the NFL, but if it's the Cowboys, I don't know how he would turn that down, and I don't think he would turn that down. Does it happen? Probably not. I do think the Cowboys would draft Travis Hunter if he's there. I think anybody would. I think he's the best player who's going to be available in this draft. And I have huge questions about most of the quarterbacks coming out in this draft. But I don't think there's any questions about Travis Hunter. He's going to help the team he goes to and probably be an all-pro. The only question is, are you going to try to play in both ways, and how much are you going to play in both ways, and what's the position he's going to start at to begin his NFL career?
So, Charean, we all know that Mike McCarthy is going to get fired, or at least we assume. So, you said not Dion. Who would be the coach that would make sense to approach and be the next coach? And can we count on the guy that fired Jimmy Johnson and hired Dave Campo to make the right decision?
Well, and that's the problem, Olin, when you change a head coach. And I think Mike McCarthy even knows that Mike McCarthy's not going to be there next year. That whole entire coaching staff is in the last year of their contract. And that's by design. Jerry doesn't pay off contracts. Just go back and look. He doesn't pay off contracts. This is what he did twice with Jason Garrett. He let Jason Garrett's contract expire. The first time, he gave him a new deal. Second time, he said, hey, you're gone, not renewing the deal. And he hired Mike McCarthy. So that's the question. Like, there are going to be some guys who get fired, but who are you going to hire? Because I don't think it's Bill Belichick, again, for multiple reasons. Bill's going to want too much money. He's not going to want the people in the tours around the building. Again, Jerry's going to see Bill taking attention away from him. Bill's not going to want Jerry doing his post-game interviews twice on the radio in the season and undermining him, which he's done to every coach he's ever had. So multiple reasons. I don't think it's Bill Belichick. So who is it? Because I don't think he goes out and gets a hot coordinator. I don't see that happening. I think he wants a guy who's been a head coach before. Is that Cliff Kingsbury? Has he done enough that maybe you bring him in? Like, I don't know. I don't know who that would possibly be that he would try to go out and get. But Kingsbury, to me, does make, some sense. You go get Spags, the defense coordinator of the Chiefs, who's been a head coach before and didn't do it very well, but has been great with what he's done with the Chiefs. I don't know. I don't really know who is out there that you immediately would say, hey, this guy's going to come in and help us. But I do think it's going to be an established, a guy who's been a head coach before. I don't think it'll be that hot, the Aaron Glenn type. I don't think it's going to be one of the hot coordinators of this offseason that Jared goes out and gets.
Charean, let's do Aggies in the NFL.
Well, it wasn't a great week, unfortunately, for the Aggies. And Bobby Brown has played pretty well, but he had the big penalty last night that didn't help. But I will do honorable mention Bobby Brown because he's been pretty effective in there and has played pretty well this year. Number 3 is Devon Achane, and I don't know what his numbers turned out. They weren't great, but he did enough to help them. He's been their leading receiver, their leading rusher. I mean, he's just done everything which we all figured that he would. He's been very good. Now it's a big win for the Dolphins to keep them in the race. Number 2, Aaron Glenn, with what he did with that defense in the second half, shutting out the Texans and leading the Lions to victory. And we just mentioned him. He's going to get a head coaching job. The question is, where's he going to go? And I hope he's very picky. And if the right one doesn't happen this offseason, that he turns it down. He needs to go to a place where he has a chance to win, where he has an established quarterback or can draft a quarterback who he believes he can win with. Chicago could be a very good team, possibly. But anyway, Aaron Glenn is number 2. And number 1, I think it's pretty obvious that the guy who had the best week. And I tweeted about this, the kind of streak that the Aggies are on with the sacks, kind of pass rush you now. Nnamdi Matabuke on Thursday night, 3 sacks, 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He was just a force in there. Hasn't had the best of seasons, not like he did last year, and then he signed a big contract, but this was by far his best game, and maybe this propels him to an even bigger season. But a great win for the Ravens, and he was a big part of the reason why. Now, officials did miss a face mask penalty they had on that Bengals' last drive when they went for 2 and didn't get it, but played an outstanding game with those 3 sacks.
Charean, great stuff as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Charean Williams there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with a short segment on the other side. Right now, we're talking about Heritage Films. Chance McClain makes those documentary films, and he sent me an email yesterday. There's a bunch of Aggies reaching out to him about doing this Aggie adventure, right? Their journey through A&M. Talk about their time at A&M and beyond. And the cool thing is you can kind of partner that up with another product that he sells, which is called the Yearflix, which is more of a 20-minute Q&A video. So you can do your time at A&M as a documentary, 2-hour documentary. You can do it with your buddies, your grandfather, your mom, whoever's involved in your Aggie story. And then you can have your kids, kind of document and chronicle their journey at Texas A&M in a 20-minute Yearflix style of video, Q&A, fun, more reserved for the younger kids in the family. When I say younger, I'm talking college age, middle school age, high school age, you name it, right? The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-8941, yourheritagefilm.com. If you're looking for a reason to move back to Aggie land or already in Aggie land, look no further than looking for a job with the Association of Former Students who are looking to hire professionals to join their team. They have positions open in fundraising, former student programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's premier alumni association and the oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss an opportunity to help out the association with Howdy socials. They also have Aggie Rain Day, class reunions, Aggie muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values: excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. If you're interested in joining the team or you know somebody who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/associationjobs. It is the Association of Former Students. OB,
yes, sir.
Closing out the hour. I feel very good based on only press conference intel, right? That doesn't tell you the whole story. That they're going to figure out the offense, even though Le'Veon Moss isn't there. It'll probably never be the same, but I think they'll figure it out enough to win games.
Right. Again, without Le'Veon, they were still able to be in position to possibly win that game against South Carolina before it went all downhill. Defense has to lead the way, though.
If the defense plays like they have at times at a top 15 level, I'm not talking top 5 right now, I'm talking 15 level, I think they win out.
Be the defense that we all expected them to be.
Yeah.
And play at a high level, and you'll have enough offense.
I agree. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back on TexAgs Live, we'll have Jamie McCoy. We'll have the KBTX Roundtable. We will also have Pete Fiutak and Jordan Pugh. There's no music playing, so I'm assuming I need to hit a break. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio, hour number 2 of the program. Let's talk with some legends. We go to the hotline, the Boss Firearms hotline. Jamie McCoy is with us here on the program. Mr. McCoy, I did not look at my Pick 6 standings this week because I've been horrible the entire year. I don't even know. I think I did horrible again. How did you do? Do you know?
From memory, I think I did okay.
Okay.
I know I was on the wrong side of that LSU Alabama massacre. That's the one that stands out to me. I picked LSU being at home with the bye week, thinking they'd be ready, and they clearly hadn't worked on the QB run yet.
Well, this has been an evolving story that the talking point has been the same, but it's evolving with more data points. What a weird year in college football, Jamie. Because you can look so good one week, and that will not necessarily translate the next week. Or you can have little mini seasons in a season. There was a point of the year that I thought LSU was really good. I thought for the first half of the game against A&M, they were the best team A&M had played. Obviously, it was South Carolina. You could say Notre Dame. I still think the Notre Dame game you played again, A&M wins that game. But, have you noticed that just it's been all over the place in college football?
It really has. I mean, you always speak to wanting parity in the NFL, but speaking of college football, it's kind of really similar to what you said. You'll have a team look all world one week. 2 weeks later, same team may play a close one against somebody that they have no business being in a close game with. South Carolina started the season off rough. They turned out. Now people are itching for them to be higher in the rankings. You got Miami, who went out and kind of laid an egg against Georgia Tech. There's plenty of other. Colorado, they lose to Nebraska early, and they lost to someone else, and you kind of write them off, and then they kind of right the ship, and now it looks like they may finish the season with nothing but wins and possibly make it to the Big 12 championship. So it's just, like you said, it's been one of those years where who's who, who's not, who's the good team, who's the bad team. It's hard to put a finger on it, but I feel like we get a chance to figure out who we really are. And I think we're one of those top teams. So I really do think that here in the next coming weeks, we get to put it on display.
Talking to Jamie McCoy here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So let's look at this New Mexico State game. Everybody's talking about it it's a win. And I'm that way too, right? The A&M's going to win this game. I'm sorry. This is not the old, this is not Appalachian State year. This is a different year. That being said, what worries me about this game is figuring out what the offense looks like, right? And maybe not giving too much information to Auburn and Texas, but figuring that part out and making sure everybody stays healthy, Jamie.
Yeah, that's my main concern too. I'm not too much worried about what the offense will look like. I know Marcel and Connor, for that matter, what they're capable of. I know we have receivers that can make plays that haven't really made the biggest jumps here in the recent weeks. But tight ends, there's different guys that we can get involved. Obviously, the glaring issue is going to be running back and how we replace Le'Veon. I like to see who they might give a chance to, whether it be 3 to 5 reps, 5 to 10 reps, not sure who, whether it's Bussy or another younger guy. I like to see how that unfolds. But my main concern with this week is getting out to a lead early, getting Connor into that game, whether it's mid-second quarter, absolutely in the second half, and then getting the starters out as soon as possible. We need to make it look good just so, people in the rankings don't try to drop us even after having this bye week. But I'm not too concerned. My main concern is getting out of there injury-free and ready to finish out these next 2 weeks after that.
Jamie, what about the wide receiver group or just the pass catchers in general? They're going to have to take on a bigger load without Le'Veon because I'm assuming, and who knows what Colin Klein is thinking of, but a little bit more screen pass, a little bit more short passing to open up some of the pass game, just so the defense has to be honest when they expect to be sitting on a run.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do, and I said it after the South Carolina week. I think that we're going to kind of transform into a new offense here. I think you're going to see more of the Colin Klein, like I said, back when he had Deuce Vaughn, which Deuce Vaughn compared to Le'Veon Moss there is no comparison as far as size goes, but I think we've become more of a speedy element on offense. I think I'm not trying to call it and be a guru and say we're necessarily going to go quick pace and try to outdo you that way, but I just see us being more getting it to the sidelines and getting north and south as opposed to just beating you down over your head in between the tackles. And I think we got the guys to implement that. And still, we haven't gone downfield as much as we can. I like to see us have a lot more explosive plays. And when I say a lot more, I'm talking 3-4 a game where Noah, let's put him on a post. Let's put him on a fade. Jade, Moose, all of these guys are very capable pass catchers. And then, like I said, not going back to my position, Theo and Trey, they're absolutely great pass catchers as well as pass blockers. So let's implement them guys somehow. I know early on in the season, like you said, we were doing a lot of screens. Let's get the tight ends out there in a bunch, set and screen, whatever the case may be. But I think we're going to see a new, faster looking offense just because we don't, even with Amari is more than capable as a runner, but I don't see us wanting to just barrel him down there and risk another injury. So let's just keep it, use all 53 and a half of the yards going east to west, but let's get north and south and expose this team and get off the field early.
Who do you think is the best team A&M has faced this year and why?
That's a good question. I would say Notre Dame. Granted, they went out and lost the week after, but I would say just off of the tape and the resumes this year, granted their resume isn't as strong as ours or any other SEC teams would be, but they're a disciplined team. They are good on defense. I hadn't really watched a lot of their tape, but just from the results of the scores and whatnot, and knowing their coach, I just know what they bring to the table and know when you're lining up against Notre Dame, there's one way that you're going to beat them, and I know what to expect when I'm seeing Notre Dame. I think this weekend's game is going to be great to see if they can actually pull it off, and I think it's Army, beat them. The two that you would have to compare that to would be LSU and South Carolina. And LSU, obviously, they put it on tape again this past weekend that it can't be them. I think they don't know who they are now. They're getting exposed on the run, not only just quarterback run, but they just don't seem to have that same LSU physicality on defense. And then South Carolina, I can't give it to them because we gave a lot of that to them. We missed a lot of tackles, and then aside from that, you give us a neutral field, you give us a 3 o'clock, 11 o'clock kickoff. I think that's a completely different game, even if we have to play there. I think the loss that we suffered to them was just the element of the perfect storm set up, which. Not to jump ahead weeks, but you see that they're trying to do it again to us, making us go play 3-6 Auburn in a night game. It's almost as if somebody in the media just wants to see A&M eliminated from the conversation so it can be other teams. But I don't think we're going out like that.
If Notre Dame played South Carolina, who would win?
I think Notre Dame will win.
Do you?
I think Notre Dame on defense is good enough. Granted, again, back to discipline. I think we were just undisciplined in our tackling. I know that I know how we try to run with Le'Veon and how they bottled us up. I don't think South Carolina will do a good job of scoring. And then on the other side, I think Riley Leonard would be able to expose them. I know that South Carolina has a great pass rush. I'm not taking that away from them or knocking them in any fashion, but I think it would be a juggernaut of a game. And for some reason, I feel like Notre Dame will come out on top.
One of the topics we had with OB earlier in the show is I look at this A&M team, all teams, and really the last few years, but I'm kind of drilling it down to right now. These games come down to the fourth quarter. You look at all season long, right? Like you look at the Notre Dame game, that was a fourth quarter loss with 5 minutes left, right? That's where they lost the game. You look at the South Carolina game, it was lost in the fourth quarter. Sure, they were not playing great football, but they were a possession away from making it a one-score game, and they threw the pick in the fourth quarter. You look at the Arkansas game, they turned it on in the fourth quarter. You look at the Mississippi State game, offensively, they weren't very good. in the second half or as good as they were. Offensively they weren't as good in the second half, but defensively they turned it on. This is a fourth quarter league, and for A&M to reach the heights that they want to, they've got to go back to be that team that wins the fourth quarter. Talk about the difficulty of doing that, especially in the SEC.
It can be difficult, and it is difficult to do that. But I think that we're built for that. Going back to Moffitt and everything that he did with this team prior to the season, training camp, and all of those things, even back prior to that in the spring. I think that Elko knows what it takes to give a good brand of 4 quarters of football, and I think we just got away from that our last time that we were able to display that on the field. I'm not so much worried about it moving forward because this bye, me as a fan, I'm itching. I had to watch all these games this past weekend, and there was carnage. There were teams that lost, but I'm still sitting here, going into almost 2 weeks since we last played, and I'm like, dang, I want to see some Aggie football. I want to see us look better. I want to see us see that we've done whatever it is we need to do. And I know if I'm feeling that way, the guys on the team have to be feeling that way. They know what they left on tape out there last, so I know that they want to say we're better than that and show all Aggies what they're absolutely capable of. Now, with New Mexico State, I'm not looking past them, but that should be an opponent that we shouldn't struggle against. Auburn, in that same breath, I know that the elements are going against us with it being a night game and whatnot, but again, that should be a team that we shouldn't have to struggle against. You're not getting that same South Carolina front seven rush or even Notre Dame for that matter. The one that everyone is not worried about, but the one that is circled on the schedule is Austin at the end of the year. And me personally, I'm not worried about them at all. I love when I do watch them. To me, it's a front-running team. They've had the easiest schedule in the 15 years that we've been in the SEC. And I just see them not facing adversity yet. And when they do face adversity, whether it be from the 12th man, our defense, our offense, whatever it may be, I think they're going to crumble. So I hear what you're saying about fourth quarter and finishing, and I know that having this bye week, getting some rest, I feel like the guys are re-energized, and really it's a 3-week season. Go win all 3 games, and you hold everything out in front of you as far as getting to Atlanta and possibly getting into the 12-team playoff.
It's interesting when you talk about Texas. I will admit that sometimes I allow my emotion to get in the way of analyzing them, right? It happens, right? I want them to lose. I can pick at them just like they can pick at us. I can also take a step away when it comes to real analyzing, and we'll see how I feel getting closer to that game. But my mind is more worried about Auburn on the road than Texas. Not saying I don't respect Texas's top 5 ranking, not saying that that's not going to be a very difficult game, but I worry more about going on the road in the SEC, even against a team that has struggled as much as Auburn, than I am, at least today, worried about Texas, because I think it is about matchups, and I like this defensive line against their offensive line. So is that being too much of a Maroon Kool-Aid homer, or do you see what I'm saying there?
I absolutely see what you're saying. I mean, again, when I saw the lineup and they had a schedule for a night game, I'm like, man, what is going on? Who is it out there that wants to see A&M fail? And really, it's not about them. It's all about us. I've seen a couple of Auburn games this year. I know recently they lost to Vanderbilt. Can't remember what they did with Oklahoma. I think they may have lost. I think they came back and won that with the late interception. Watching them, I've seen their quarterback. I don't think their offense is any match for our defense. And our defense shouldn't. No, I'm sorry. Our offense, I don't think, should have a problem with their defense. The elements go into it being a night game and it just being rowdy. It's one of those cool stadiums. I haven't yet to go to that stadium, but I know that apparently the environment is something to behold. So for that point, yes, it could be a struggle. It could be, I'm not even going to say a trap game. I don't think they're worthy enough of an opponent. But again, back to what happened in South Carolina and me saying that could have been one of the best things for us this season, especially moving late into the season with the extra games in the playoff and the SEC championship. I think these guys got to feel what failure tasted like They got to experience what it was like to have all the Aggie fans, so up on a high, and then they got to leave the stadium, walk out with their head down. I think these guys, I think these guys don't want to put that taste in the fans' mouth, let alone their mouths. And then again, I don't think they want to let Elko down. Elko expects or has an expectation for them and how they should play and how they should do if they just go out there and train and do all the work, put the work in and strain. And I think these guys won't let them down. And matter of fact, I'm betting on it. It's something to worry about, but I don't think we should be worried about it.
Yeah, look, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think it's going to be a very interesting. I could see a scenario where Arkansas beats Texas this weekend. I can also see a scenario where Texas blows out Arkansas because I don't know which Arkansas team is going to show up.
Man, I said it earlier this week to some buddies. Both orange tees are going down this weekend. I see Georgia, after facing what they did against Ole Miss, I see them coming out and thumping Tennessee. Tennessee has won a lot of close games that they shouldn't have been in, whether they be at home or away. I think they run into not a trap game, but I think they run into an upset team that got embarrassed. And their will wasn't on display this weekend. And I think going into Georgia, I think Kirby's going to put a stamp on it and say, we let one fall against Ole Miss finally, and we're going to let you guys know exactly who Georgia brand football is. And then back to your point about Arkansas, you're right. You don't know which team you're going to get. I thought when they played Ole Miss, it was going to be a shootout of a game, and they came out there and kind of laid down and just let Ole Miss do what they wanted to do. But this rivalry with Texas goes back years. They haven't got to play in a while. I remember the Felix Jones days, Darren McFadden, Roy Williams and all them, Cedric Benson, from my neck of the woods. They don't hate Texas as much as we do, but they hate Texas. And I think the fan base is hot. I think if the quarterback is healthy and the running back is healthy, I think they can give Texas every bit that they can handle. And I'm excited for Texas to be in a game where it's not just we're sipping coffee, everybody's high-fiving in the stands, and we're not. There's no lemon booty factor. This weekend, Texas needs to feel the lemon booty, and I think Arkansas pulls off the upset. Both orange tees go down.
Last thing for you, Ole Miss. It kind of goes back to one of those original questions I asked you. One week, this team looks amazing. Another week, they look terrible. They lose a couple games. Right now, Ole Miss is playing the best football in the conference, and that's not just because of what they did, this past week against Georgia, but just in general, they seem to be playing really good defense, and that offense is a Lane Kiffin offense.
Yeah, surprised, like you said, it's a tale of two teams. I saw both games that they lost earlier this year, and then coming out there, I just had a feeling they had Georgia's number. Georgia's been kind of iffy in the secondary. And I knew Lane would be wanting to attack, and rightfully so. Their defense has done a lot of good things. I think that they can be had against a quality opponent, but I don't think they have enough quality opponents left on their schedule. I know they got Mississippi State. I'm not sure who else they have left, and I know they took a big bounce when they went ahead of Georgia. But I think we can still make that bounce ahead of them. I know that there'll be a team contending, and from the looks of it, if they can finish the season undefeated, they should very well be in the playoff talks, if not in the 12-man race. But if we do everything that we're supposed to do and we go out and beat Auburn and then we come back and beat Texas, who's ranked higher than them, I think you'll see that same jump. And then if you put us in the SEC championship against whoever that last man may be, it might be an Ole Miss. I don't think it's going to be Tennessee. I think they fall. I'm not sure how it could be Ole Miss. It could be Texas, and we rematch in the SEC championship. But I'm looking for another weekend of carnage this weekend, and Ole Miss might be there. But like I said, if we take care of our business, I think we jump ahead of them. And the guys who make the playoff predictions and pick the spots, I think that they'll do what's right and put us ahead where we need to be.
Jamie, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, no problem, David. Have a good one, man. Giggle.
Giggle, man. There he is, Jamie McCoy on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Let's talk to Jonathan Lusk with Bird Dog because, Jonathan, I don't know if you saw, I posted some pictures, man. your team took some awesome pictures of my hunt last week there in Brady, Texas. What a great time it was.
Man, we had a blast. It was we had 9 or 10 guys from TexAgs. I got you on your first hunt, which was awesome to see. I love to see folks getting into hunting, and we had a blast. Krager put on a show, hung out pretty late with us, and the quail hunt was fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what it was. It was all about the fellowship. I always tell people, like, pulling the trigger is 1% of it, and 99% of it is, like, the relationships and the bonds that you make. And it was cool to have, all the TexAgs guys there. It was a blast.
Jonathan, I want you to dispel a couple of myths about me. First off, I partied later than you did on Wednesday night. True or false?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Did I party later than you on Wednesday night?
I can't understand you, but I would tell you did a great job. I'll say this. Like, part of the quail hunting and just, upland hunting in general is like learning a lot, where you make your line, you find a covey, and you surround it. And if a bird comes your way, you take it down. And I know that you got flack from different folks. And so it was nice to see you knock one down. But man, we had a fantastic time. It was like, I think it's the beginning of something special, with TexAgs and the folks that we're going to put together the stuff for. I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, we've got a bunch of hunts coming up, exotic hunts, whitetail hunts, more upland hunts, and we're about to launch some fishing experiences that I think guys are going to really love.
The website is birddogit.com, birddogit.com. They make memories for hunting in the outdoors, something you can do with your sons, your wives, your good buddies. It's a great time. Jonathan, thank you, buddy. birddogit.com. And we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So Jonathan Luss couldn't hear what I was saying. I just wanted to say it out loud. I stayed up later than not everybody, and these guys that were there with me, they can confirm. I stayed up to at least 11 o'clock on 2 nights in a row, to where people were like, dude, you're still awake. Yes. Luss fell asleep at 9:45 the first night. I'm not going to say why. And then I ate everything. I had seconds. People think I'm like malnourished. I ate my you-know-what off. Like I ate seconds. I had dessert. So I am a real human. I can relate to people. So, there's a lot of conversations in this office that no fun, Nuño. Dude, I had a lot of fun. Sure, I made my room super dark and, I went to bed and I didn't want to converse with people late at night and look at my phone right before I went to bed. Sure, I did the stuff that most normal people do, but I did party late to at least 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, Nick. On a freaking Wednesday.
Had to get my mic real quick.
Yeah,
I mean, if I was out there too, I would be, going later. And, we were talking about it. You don't really dabble in the cold snacks, but I think that would have made it just, chef's kiss, even better.
Yeah, I there was a moment I was like, man.
You almost gave in.
No. I was just like, man, this.
You wanted to hear the ksk.
No, none of that. It was just more like, God, if I was into this, I'd be like blitzed. Like, because it was just there, a plethora of beverages. And
That's a term we don't use enough.
Say blitzed.
Is that a 90s term?
No, I've used it before.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of like a, second tier. You don't use it a lot. I love it.
I want to read this text that came in from my buddy Philip that I want us all to chew on for a quick second. It's an easy, this is not analyst hat. Taking that off. This is fan hat. And then we'll put that analyst hat on. What did I sound like a Texan there? Did you see my cowboy accent come out? It's my cowboy season. This is from Philip. I want parity in the end and in college football, just not with Texas A&M. Ain't that the frickin' truth?
I mean,
but here's the interesting part about that, guys. Nick, you look like you're about to say something.
I agree. I mean, yeah, it's fun. Like this past week, it's fun to watch all these games and not really have a stake. But when A&M plays, you want them to win by 50. It's that simple.
That's simple. I don't want stress. I don't want to bite my nails like people on the show. Like I don't want to do that. Okay. What I want to do is enjoy the experience. But I will say this: there's nothing like getting ready for an SEC game. Like, no disrespect to New Mexico State. I'm not excited. I'm excited to go to the football experience. I'm excited to go to Kyle Field. I'm excited to see the Marcel Reed offense, to see what they can do now, right? That stuff I'm excited about. It's a college football Saturday. We only get 12 of them guaranteed, right? So that part I love. But there is a different level of angst, right? When it's an SEC game. Like Auburn, that game should not worry us. Totally worried.
Yeah.
Right? Like every game, Arkansas, that they've dominated. Those games are nail biting. Going on the road to Florida early on, I knew A&M was the better team. We hadn't seen A&M win on the road since the Lincoln administration. So there's reasons to so that's the part about this New Mexico State game that I'm like, I'm not excited because of the name, but I'm excited for the experience. And I'm doing the wishy-washy analyst thing. I'm balancing both sides. Nick?
Yeah, again, I agree. To be honest with you, though, about that Auburn game, I was worried about South Carolina. I didn't feel great about it. I feel fine about Auburn. I don't think they're a very good team. I know y'all were talking about the numbers earlier that suggests they're kind of middle of the pack, but their record doesn't reflect it. Right. I think A&M handles business there. And you want to talk about a college football Saturday. Oh, my goodness. What day is it? The 25th? 30th, sorry. November 30th. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great. And again, I will be worried about Texas when we get to Texas, Callie. But right now, I'm more worried about Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I said at the very beginning of the season, looking at our schedule, in my opinion, that Auburn was going to be our trap game. I know people had their own thoughts about South Carolina and everything, but I think the difference, I mean, I don't know how you define a trap game, but Jamie said something about it. He said they're not a, I forget what he said. He said something about they're not the quality of opponent to be qualified as a trap game, but I think that's exactly what a trap game is. And I think South Carolina was a great team, and I think they were above the quality to be defined as a trap game.
I think we look at South Carolina based on the last few years, right? A couple years ago, they were really good, but like people have not really bought. Now they're buying in.
Totally.
Back-to-back ranked wins.
Yeah.
Vandy and A&M like that, and they're a team that, at worst, are going to go 8-4. I think at worst.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to beat Clemson at the end of the year.
I hope they do.
So, and I kind of like Clemson, but I kind of want Clemson to lose.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going both sides. All right, when we come back, we're going to have our friends from KBTX here in studio. Right now, your car wash tradition with the friendliest staff and a personal touch wants you to know that they are Aggieland's first green car wash. They recycle 100% of their water. That is Aggieland Express Car Wash. 2 great locations. The one on William D. Fitch that I go to typically because it's closer to my house. And there's also the new location, which I've been to as well, 2528 Texas Avenue South, across from the Planet Fitness. Here's the thing about that location. They both have the various car washes or options for you. But the new location offers the full service wash that they'll take care of all the cleaning, the drying, the vacuuming, all of it, right? And there's 3 levels of full service. So if somebody wants to try that basic full service wash at the new location, Aggieland Express Car Wash there on Texas Avenue, I'm going to give one away, a $40 value to the first caller, 979-693-1150. The first caller will get themselves a free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash there on Texas Avenue. Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for the KBTX Roundtable. Nicole, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. We gave a bad high five earlier.
Oh,
What's up, Morgan?
What's
Give it
up?
up. I got you. You get a fist pound from far away. But you're actually tall enough. Tyler's in the house.
Just reach it on over there.
I mean, I meant that with all due respect. All right, so let's get into it. We excited? I just had a segment on this. Not excited about this New Mexico State game, but I love going to Kyle Field. It's kind of like because in my mind, I'm thinking about what's potentially ahead. Are you guys kind of in the same place, Morgan?
Yeah, I feel in the same place. I feel like all the discussion is talking about postseason kind of implications and all of that. So I feel like New Mexico State's kind of getting lost in the mix. I know they take it game by game and they're focused on the game plan, obviously, but I feel like everybody's kind of looking ahead at this point, and I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, Tyler?
It's natural to look ahead, though, when it is New Mexico State. They've got nothing but night games the rest of the way, pretty much. So this one I kind of wish was an earlier game.
11 a.m. kick, please.
11 a.m., kind of get it done with, get it out of the way, and we're moving on, and we can finally look at Auburn and Texas. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking ahead on this one from a fan's perspective or from someone on the outside not in the program, for sure.
Yeah, there's only so many Saturdays, right, at Kyle Field, and so I think being able to play against New Mexico State, and no matter who the opponent is, you get the run through, the walkout, the all the pageantry before the game. So it's always fun to have a game at Kyle.
Yeah, and I'm not dismissing the experience. It's just because my mind is like, where do the games that are going to make a difference matter? And I automatically go straight to Auburn.
Yep.
I'm not even thinking about Texas yet. Like I'm thinking about Auburn, but I know they got to get through this game. I want to ask you, Tyler, because you were here. I think you're the only one who was here for 2020.
Yeah.
What were the talking points at this point in November? Did it seem as clear as it is right now for A&M?
It didn't. This one seems a little different, and part of it's probably the 12-team playoff. Because if there was a 14 playoff, I think A&M would be out of it already. But I think at this point, maybe they were starting to take shape, because I don't think anyone believed it was going to happen in 2020. And then you look at their record, like, well, they only have one loss, and it's early in the season to a good Alabama team. They might. So it was probably about this point of the season where things started to kind of take shape of that conversation of, because this is when the college football playoff rankings come out. They were kind of right there in the mix. So yeah, it was interesting, but it still didn't seem like there was as much hope, I guess, as this year.
Do we expect to see, Nicole, a different kind of standing with the college football playoffs and A&M this week based on not playing and what some of the carnage above it, or still got to wait a little bit?
Like how they'll play?
No, where they'll be slotted.
I think we have to wait.
Yeah.
I think, A&M is in control of their own destiny. They have to win out. Like, everything they want is right in front of them, but they have to take care of business. So I think this past weekend was really important. A&M, going back into the sole possession of first in the SEC, but it's messy up there.
Yep, it is messy.
I'll be curious to see how far Georgia falls.
Mhm.
That'll be an interesting one. All they're at the top of the SEC. They'll still be in the 12, but like, how far down are they going to be?
The interesting thing about Georgia, I think we all agree they've taken a step back.
Yeah.
But who wouldn't have that record with their schedule? If you could put up Georgia's schedule, Nick, because they've had, like, outside of Florida, they've had the gauntlet. Look at that.
Yeah.
Now, the early game against Kentucky, that ended up being, a Kentucky team that played them tight, but they weren't very good. Alabama, by the way. Auburn, Texas. Mississippi State, then the Texas game, the Ole Miss game. They still have Tennessee this week. So, like, there's a
Georgia Tech.
And Georgia Tech, who just beat Miami, right? So, who wouldn't have two losses with that record or that schedule?
And if they beat Tennessee this week, that's a playoff team too. So that's where it gets really interesting of which SEC teams, which two-loss SEC teams are you going to leave out of this?
And there's going to be someone. When you look at this game, Morgan, what do you want to see? Like, what do you not want to see? What do you want to see?
I don't want to see as many missed tackles as there was against South Carolina, and I want to see how the run game shapes up. I know it's not going to be as tough as a test, even as an Auburn game would be, to see how the run game gets going, but just see how they perform without Le'Veon Moss and who steps up.
Yep. Cool.
I want to see points. I think that is a point of concern. I want to see how this offense, with Colin Klein and Elko, just how they work together this bye week. Like, coming off of such a disappointing loss against South Carolina, you want to see like Auburn, you want to see how they compare against Texas. But it's like New Mexico State's kind of like a perfect little game to be able to work on some things and to implement some things. And so I think we can see maybe some, I don't want to say packages, and just certain offensive plays that maybe they wouldn't be able to implement on the road at Auburn.
Yep. Tyler?
Well, I'm just interested to see how much Elko implements or how much he kind of tips his hand, because we know.
Won't. Come on, he won't tip his hand.
I know he won't.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we know something's going to happen with Le'Veon Moss out. Are we going to see how he plans on utilizing the run game against New Mexico State, or is it going to be more vanilla? Amari Daniels is our guy. E.J. Smith is his backup. Because we know they're going to have to go more than just those two guys the rest of the season. They're not going to need it against New Mexico State. So do we even see any of that? Do we see a Terry Bussey out of the backfield? Do we see some of these other?
I don't think we do in this game. I don't know if we do.
And that's the thing. Does he save all of that for Auburn and Texas at the end of the year?
Although you make an interesting point too, because you kind of want to practice it with real.
You need some reps,
real ammo, right?
Yeah,
Like
they haven't seen
ammo. You hunter.
This is going to be the first game
Team Hunter
without Le'Veon Moss. So do you want to kind of set yourself up and see what works, or do you want to just kind of play it conservative, hold back, and wait to tip your hand against a tougher opponent?
I got a question for you all. Do we see Connor Wigman in this game?
Oof.
Ooh. What sound effects?
I don't think we. Well, I asked him about Jalen Henderson. He said he's still hurt.
Yep.
So if Jalen is really hurt for this Saturday, then I think you're going to see both quarterbacks, right?
I think you got to see him multiple reasons. A, you want to get a big lead, right? That's
right.
Considering if Marcel starts, which I think he will, and you also want to get you don't want to get Marcel hurt, and you want to get Connor some fresh reps, right? Like that to show two different. You might need Connor's style of offense in the future based on the potential lack of a running game if it is affected, because I think it all boils down to Chase Basantis coming back and establishing some kind of run game.
I think both quarterbacks have proven at different times that they can win different games. And yeah, down the line, down the future, you're talking Auburn, Texas, postseason, you're going to need both of them. And it's been a little bit since Connor's gotten some reps, so this is the perfect opportunity for him to see some live action reps.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. Double segment. How's that sound? Ooh,
Lucky you.
Pretty good. All right, right now, FBS and their team of experts are here to help you with the appliances that make your house a home. They carry all the top brands to make your life easier. They can fit any budget. They've been taking care of Texas since 1988. They do have those trusted brands like Bosch and expert staff and trained installers. They pride themselves on offering a comprehensive solution that sets them apart from the competition. They provide top-notch sales and installation services for all the leading brands to ensure a seamless experience for their customers. They have 8 showrooms across Texas. They got one right there on Welborn in College Station. Visit them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is factorybuilderstores.com. It's FBS.
I'm speaking.
That was on air. You just
Zip it.
He didn't say we're back.
We're literally back. Yeah. We're totally back on TexAgs.
We were just in the middle of TexAgs.
Hey, you do the intro for me, Morgan.
Welcome back to TexAgs, KBTX Roundtable here.
The Rollo Insurance Studio.
Sponsored by, I don't know, sponsored
KBTX.
Nicole, David, everybody knows David.
Hi.
Tyler Shaw, our trusted sports director at KBTX. Trusted.
Morgan, why don't you ask the panel a question?
So there is 3 games left in the regular season. What does Texas A&M need to do to make the postseason?
Can I answer first?
Yeah, David can go first.
Thank you. Dominant defense. I think if this team gets back to controlling the line of scrimmage, which to me starts on the defensive line, they will win the remaining 3 games and be in Atlanta.
Yeah.
The offense has to do just enough. I'm not saying they can be bad, but they did enough in South Carolina moving the ball. I think they need to score some more points, obviously. They didn't score anything in the second half. But if the defense plays well, then I think they move on to Atlanta.
Yeah, I was going to go ladies first and start with Nicole. But
I went first. That's why.
Okay, Nicole.
Now, Nicole.
Yeah, they just need to take care of the ball. I feel like offensive-wise, we need to. It's like hard to know like what we're gonna see, and I feel like against New Mexico State, we're not gonna Elko's not gonna reveal a lot, and so it will just see like I want to see some wide receivers step up, and Jade's been kind of quiet, Noah's been quiet the past couple of games, so they don't have to have 100 yards, but we have to supplement those yards of Le'Veon Moss, and so we'll see.
I like David's answer with the controlling the line of scrimmage. I really do think it's going to come down to defense. Because South Carolina, there was a lot lacking defensively. A lot of that was the missed tackles. You know, I can't imagine how many sacks, how many tackles for loss would have had they actually, gotten that first,
It was the light show.
Tackle. Yeah.
It was all the LED.
It was a little too much of a distraction.
Was it cool, the environment?
The environment was. It was almost a little overkill. But, it's
like too much lights.
It's unique to Columbia.
Ask Tyler what he brought back from the game.
What'd you bring back from the game, Tyler?
I did bring back part of the hedges.
Are they still alive?
No, they're dead.
No.
They're dying. It was a bit we did with Max Crawford, who's the meteorologist at KBTX. He's an Aggie, big A&M fan. We had him on our podcast, and we were kind of he was mad at us. He thought we were a little too critical of the Aggies a couple weeks ago. So we said we're going to extend an olive branch, and kind of say, sorry.
What were you guys being critical of a couple weeks ago? What game?
It was after the LSU
It was after the LSU game. He thought we weren't enough rah-rah, they're the best team ever.
They're cautious.
Because we were a little cautious just because of the way they beat LSU.
Max is the heart of the podcast, and
he's a big fan.
Tyler and Travis and the sports team are, I don't want to say the brains, but not we don't leave.
We're more unbiased. Max went. He's an Aggie.
Yeah, I'm going to read you this. Derrick Henry on the chat says.
Derrick Henry?
Yeah, Derrick.
The Ravens running back.
Yeah, he loves watching TexAgs. Derrick says, South Carolina's not a great team. We just blew it. Should have dominated that team, and we proved we should have when we scored 20 unanswered.
I disagree. I think South Carolina's a good team. I don't.
But he said great.
He said great?
Yeah, they're not a great. And I agree they're not a great team. I think they're on the cusp of being special.
They're a team that is capable of beating A&M. A&M shouldn't have lost by 24 points.
And then shut out in the second half.
The way they lost. Yeah, but it wouldn't have surprised me had it been a close game. And, South Carolina is
Remember
decent.
when I said they were going to either lose to LSU or South Carolina?
I do remember that.
And you were like, I'm not asking you that.
You were right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because it's now, 9-10 days ago that this game happened. But if Marcel doesn't throw that interception with 14:50 left or something like that in the fourth quarter, they don't lose by 24 points, right?
Do they go down and score?
They're going to get a field goal.
Okay.
At the they're going to make it a one-score game. And I
so
know
they lose by 17.
I don't know if the game plays. I think that changed
it kind of snowballed
the confidence and the momentum of the game, right? And even though South Carolina did not score on that possession, they knew they had it, right? That you take away 3 to 7 points from a team in look. I talked about this earlier in the show. This team for the last few years, and every team in the SEC can say this, but A&M, they win games and they lose games in the fourth quarter. That's just what happens, right? So you lose 3 to 7 points in will be a one-score game. I think that just changes the way you play. Just like had A&M stopped them from kicking that field goal, not gotten the dumb penalty at the end of the first half, I do believe the second half plays differently. Does that mean they win? I don't know. I just think it plays differently.
It did snowball, and it was a lot different. And because of that, I don't think Auburn's going to play out the same way. I don't think it's going to be this thing that gets out of control like it did in South Carolina. Just because they have tasted that and see how these little mistakes kind of add up.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be a little bit more prepared for that next time they're on the road.
All right, so final thoughts here. We got about a minute left before we break against New Mexico State. You've already told me what you want to see. What can we not see?
I think it's easy, like missed tackles, but I don't think that will happen. But just being able to see how the defense responds after their South Carolina performance.
Morgan?
I just want to see the offense get rolling. I want to see Amari Daniels have a really good game, and I don't want to see any turnovers from Marcel, because that interception was his first.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so
and then he had another turnover not too long after.
Yeah, so I think just getting him back on track and not having any turnovers.
In honor of hearing from the special team guys on Monday.
The big three.
I don't want to see a lot of it, but I want to see Randy Bond set a new record long, maybe a 57-yard field goal. I want to see a punt that's down at the 1 from Tyler White.
What else you want,
highlight
Tyler?
reel.
Tell me more. I like it. This is hot.
No dead ball penalties.
Yeah.
How about no penalties?
Yeah.
Zero.
That's asking a little too much.
Okay. Friends, thank you very much. Appreciate you. When we come back on TexAgs Live, Pete Fiutak of College Football News will join us. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening with A&M and college football, all these weird playoff scenarios. Who's going to make the 12? Who's going to be out? How many teams does the SEC get in? Is it looking like 4 potentially? We'll talk about that and more. It's TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We hear the music, guys. We're just getting the cameras ready. It's TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com and start earning money like a boss today. Pete Fiutak, College Football News. My man, how you been, buddy?
I'm all right. How you doing? This is a little more fun for you this year, right? This has been going well for you and the whole A&M world.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot better before the South Carolina game. It was great. It was awesome, But that game kind of was a slap in the face, but I think very fixable issues, Pete. I don't know how much you remember of that game, but
yeah,
as bad as the offense was in the second half, and Le'Veon Moss being down for the year obviously is a disaster he was your best offensive player. It was a one-score game. It was a 10-point game with a chance to make it a one-score game before that interception that Marcel Reed threw. It just kind of spiraled out of control at that point.
Yeah, and they had time to work on figuring out Marcel Reed, and he didn't just jump into the game. He had a week to game plan for him. Obviously wasn't sprung on him like it was in the LSU game. So it's it's life in the SEC. South Carolina turns out to be good. They stumbled a little bit early and they got a lot better, but now it's still there. I mean, it's crazy even with that South Carolina loss. I mean, still on top of this SEC mix, you still, I don't really like the control your own destiny line, but I'll use it. And, just win the rest of your games and you are going to be if Texas A&M doesn't lose another game, they're the national champion because they're going to, play for the SEC championship and, win out. So just keep winning now. And the South Carolina game doesn't matter. So the team's right there. I mean, it's his fast. I mean, it's year one. You got the biggest, you got the big giant breaks. Not having to play Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee, but that's expanded conference world for everybody now. So not like the Indianas and Texas A&Ms don't necessarily play everyone, but you still got to play these other good teams on the slate.
Yeah. So did the South Carolina game show you something that, I don't know, A&M may not be this team right now that we thought, or, hey, look at the body of work through these 9 games. They're actually a little bit different. This was just, they lost their best running back. They didn't have a time to adjust, and South Carolina's playing great at home with momentum.
Yeah, it's life in the SEC. I mean, it's nothing more than that. It's not there's nothing. Texas A&M. It's talent-wise and ability. It's still not. Ohio State's the best team in the country. They're just not quite playing like it. Georgia's probably team 1B, and it's just not playing like it. Oregon's obviously great. A&M's not there. But, this is one of those years where just get in because there's nobody out there who's really been that dominant, except for at the moment Notre Dame, and that was obviously early on. But no, it's right now. Just get in there, get in the tournament because everyone out there has its flaws. And if you're A&M, again, you're in year one of this, under Elko. So I don't want to say you're ahead of schedule or anything, but there was nothing about the South Carolina game that wasn't anything more than, hey, look, the SEC is really, really good. And you got the right team on the right day. And, that kind of stuff happens. Spin the wheel and it's going to be your turn. But again, if you're A&M, take advantage of all these breaks. Take advantage of the fact that you've got Texas at home coming up. Take advantage. You don't have to play the biggest of the big boys on the slate. And, okay, don't apologize for anything. Just keep winning in the SEC and you're all right.
My audience hates when I do these ifs, Pete, but I'm going to do an if, okay? That game, if A&M remembered how to tackle, they win that game. Because, they got to Lenore Sellers a lot, right? They were he's a big dude, right? I get it. In that particular game and partially in the LSU game, they forgot the tackle. And maybe they won't win the game. But I don't think that South Carolina gets up to an early lead, right? I don't think that A&M plays as poorly as they do in the second half with the momentum. I feel like if they just tackled, that's a different game.
Oh, I mean, everyone has you can put everyone who has a loss has a moment where you're like, yeah, if they could, they're sometimes just teams just don't play up to their abilities. I mean, again, like I mentioned, who are the 2 best teams in college football right now? Again, we know Oregon, but it's really Ohio State and Georgia talent-wise. But Georgia, Carson Beck decided not to keep throwing the ball to the other team, if he could just sort of relax a little bit, if Ohio State could have just been a little more physical up front against Oregon, it's every team's got if Notre Dame remembered to run the ball against Northern Illinois, there are always these moments where you can say, yeah, this is why each team loses. But it's so easy in situations like this. I'm really not Mr. Positive with any of this stuff, but I'm going to sound like it. Is to focus on the negative one thing that, okay, yeah, again, the South Carolina coaching staff had a full week to focus on Reed and say we don't have to worry about Wegman. We can just focus on Reed. That helps a little bit. And you're right. Sometimes teams just don't have their best tackling day. And the other teams, those guys are getting NIL money too. Those guys are pretty good. So again, it's as opposed to being an indictment of Texas A&M, which, look, again, I don't think Texas A&M is one of the 3 or 4 best teams, but it's top 10 or 15. So it's not again, spin the wheel. South Carolina's a top 20-ish caliber team. They've played well for the most part for most of the season. They've had their blips, but they're playing well right now too. And again, like you mentioned, SEC game on the road, it's tough.
Pete, so I was doing this with Billy yesterday. I'm not sure how many teams the SEC gets into the playoffs this year because of those spots going to be going away. Like, I'm pretty sure the Big Ten is going to get 4 spots, right? And
it's going to be delineated. It's going to be the Big Ten is going to be higher up. The SEC is going to be lower. But look at this playoff. Now we're assuming the College Football Playoff Committee is going to kind of do what they normally do, and they're not going to flip from what they've done the previous 10 years. Because if you look at the previous 10 years of college football playoff rankings, every Power 5, then Power 4 now team that got to 11 wins would be in. There's one little outlier year where Cincinnati was in and would have been close, but really get to 11 wins and you will get into this college football playoff if you're a Power 4 team. And the other thing about the College Football Playoff Committee that they're going to do is the one thing that you have to remember about them. Last year was an aberration. You had a perfect storm of stuff happen that Florida State was rightly left out because you just so happened to have Texas and Alabama, which had to be in that order. But they don't like controversy. They want something that they can justify. And if they can say, okay, this SEC team is 10-2, this SEC team is 9-3, they're going to go with the 10-2 team and not really waver too much about it. They're not going to have too much gripes there. So think about all the teams like Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, Tennessee. I'm obviously missing something. Georgia. Two of these teams are going to have to miss out because they're just not going to have the records. Meanwhile, like you said, the Big Ten, if everything goes to form, Indiana and Penn State are going to be 11-1, which is the sweet spot because the worst deal is to be a conference championship loser because you have an extra loss and you play that game. Whereas if you're Penn State or Indiana, if you're 11-1, that's great. You get 3 weeks off. You don't have to play an extra game, and your 13th game is a home game in the playoff. The problem's going to be, though, that 11-1 Indiana, 11-1 Notre Dame, 11-1 Penn State, they're going to be the higher seeds. Good luck, because you're probably going to play the first round playoff game against. Welcome to Georgia. Who I know they're not playing great right now, but who wants that at the 10th? You want BYU. You want a Boise State or Kansas State or whoever it's going to be. You don't want Georgia. You don't want Ole Miss as your 10th or 11th seed coming in. So you're going to have the top teams in the below the top 4, like the 5, 6, 7, 8s, are going to be Notre Dame and a bunch of Big Ten teams. But wow, look at the bottom half. It's going to be 9, 10, 11, 12-ish are going to be the 10-2-ish SEC teams who kick in there, which makes if you're Texas A&M again, you're going to play. If you're playing for the SEC championship and you are a 10-2 team overall, you're going to be fine. But that makes the Texas game a playoff game at this point.
So in that world, A&M gets in, but they lose the SEC championship game. You think that the committee would probably penalize them with the other 10-2 teams that don't get in if they were able to beat Texas in that scenario? Or I guess there's still a lot to be played out.
I kind of now I'm really doing if your audience hates the if, this is the ultimate one. I'm assuming that let's start with this. Who do you eliminate in this scenario? If Texas A&M beats Texas, I think Texas. Give me Texas's big win. They had the one home game against Georgia, lost. Michigan, not a great win. That's just not Michigan is going to finish 6-6. I mean, it's just not a great win. What else you got? I mean, there's just nothing there. Did Texas beat Alabama? Did Tennessee? Did they beat Ole Miss? No, and they don't have that giant win on the slate. Whereas Texas A&M, all right, you're right. Like I mentioned before, they haven't played the big boys, but Texas is a big boy. So, like, if you beat Texas, I think Texas A&M, that's the one where the committee says, okay, what can we justify here? As they go through each ranking slot, they go from 25 up to 1. They argue each specific spot. When they're arguing for the 10th or 11th or 12th spot, they're like, oh, they love big wins. Okay, what's Texas A&M's big win? All right, hey, look, at the end of the day, they won the regular season and they beat Texas. There you go. So Texas A&M gets in over Texas. So eliminate Texas in this situation, and then just keep on going right down the list. I think Alabama, Tennessee this weekend is going to be not Alabama, Tennessee. It's why am I blanking here? Tennessee's playing Georgia. That's a playoff game. That's an elimination game. That team, even though Tennessee still has a shot, still kinda, I think that's a game where you're going to say, okay, well, now you lop off that team. And then because there's only so many spots, I mean, even though it's expanded to 12, as I've explained, since this thing came out, it's still hard. It's still hard to get that one of those 12 spots. You're still only talking like 18% of all of college football teams, as opposed to like, an NBA or NHL or any other sport where, it's 50% of the teams get in college basketball or something like 39% of the teams in. It's still hard to get one of those 12 spots.
Yeah, we're talking to Pete Fiutak here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, so you kind of broke down Texas for us a little bit. I know they don't have the signature win, but what do you think about the team itself? What you've seen in some of these games, their ranked games against Vandy, what you've seen against some of you're right, they haven't really had marquee games. What have you seen from them this year to make you think they are one of the top 12 teams or not?
Super fast. I mean, start with the fact that, again, if you're not just going to even just get in it, but do some damage in it, if you're going to play against the elite teams, and this is where I think, once we get into this thing, the BYUs, the Indianas, the Boise States, it's good. They're going to be great stories, and then they're going to get out there. And this is where, I kind of equate the Georgias and Ohio States of the world being like the teams that like, okay, we just want to get in this tournament. Let's get us in. And then then the switch goes on. You got to have the guys who can run with the elite teams out there. Oregon's pretty fast. They've got some horses too, but nothing like, the Ohio States and Georgias. And Texas can run with everyone. They are so fast at every single position. Now it's Texas. It's Steve Sarkisian. We know they're going to blow it at some point. So it's either going to be Texas A&M or it's going to be at some point in the playoff. But in terms of just having the guys who can hang around with anybody, having that quarterback, having this system, having the skill parts, they can absolutely hang with everybody. But again, they haven't proven it yet.
Talking to Pete Fiutak here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Ole Miss is an interesting team because I thought Lane lost it, right? And he has certainly gained it right back. The defense is playing well. They get the signature win against Georgia. What do you think of Ole Miss so far?
I am a Lane Kiffin apologist to the nth degree. I mean, people forget, and people actually, it's kind of assumed, oh, well, Mississippi, Ole Miss, it's an SEC team. Ole Miss is not good at football. If you look at the history of Ole Miss football, they're not great. That's kind of like South Carolina. South Carolina's never really won anything. There are certain teams in the SEC that get a big reputation because it's SEC, but you really dive deep and you're like, all right, what has this Rebel program ever really done, at least in the last 20 years in the college football playoff and BCS era? It's not easy to win there. Hugh Freeze won a couple games, beat Bama a couple times, but didn't do much. So what he's doing at Ole Miss, he's right there with the programs that have everything, that have, the Texas of the world, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the A&Ms, who are the programs that are bound by absolutely nothing. And Ole Miss is right there. He's got the schemes, he's got the transfers, he's got the guys. And you're right. I mean, this team's right there with everyone. They've got experience, talent, and he has done a great job of being able to put this thing together. And they're right there. They're good enough. They've got that. If you can't handle the speed and efficiency of that offense on the wrong day, then you're in big trouble. But The defense is going to be the defense. It's playing well. It just attacks. It makes up for other problems by getting into the backfield. But that they're not going to win on D at the end of the day. They're going to win because that offense is going to have to be sharp in the right moments.
Talking to Pete Fiutak. Pete, let's talk about the ACC. How many teams do you think they get into the tournament or in the playoffs?
I think one. Because it's going to be SMU is such a crazy outlier here, and that's the one thing. I know I talked all about the 11-win thing before. That's the one team that might go 11-2-ish and not get in because it depends on what BYU does because that's their one loss. It depends on if Clemson can win out. Like I think in my scenario, what I kind of foresee happening is it really comes down to at this point, if everything goes a little bit to plan, Miami at Syracuse. Miami is just begging to get tagged like all year, and they finally got hit by Georgia Tech. This is a good Miami team. It's not an elite one. If they lose at Syracuse, then this gets really funky because Clemson, SMU, and Miami don't play each other. So you're going to have some crazy tiebreaker things happening. I kind of envision the scenario where I still think, even though with the blip a couple weeks ago, Clemson is probably the best team in the ACC, and they're probably going to lose to South Carolina. So if you have Clemson, who finds its way into the ACC championship, and they win it, and they lose to South Carolina, you have a 3-loss conference champion team, which at this point would get the 12 seed. If you would get, a Boise State would probably get one of the top 4 seeds before anyone else. Now, if Miami wins out and it's Miami versus SMU and they're both 11-1, then if you're an SEC team, you're freaking out a little bit because the committee might just be like, all right, 11-win thing, you're in as a Power 4 program and go from there. So if you're an A&M fan or a fan of any other SEC team and you want one of those 12 spots, you want SMU to GAC at some point. You want Miami to GAC. You want BYU to either run right through everybody or a couple more losses for the Big 12, and you want a 2 or 3 loss Big 12 champion because you only want one team from the Big 12 and one team from the ACC to get in this thing. Or you want Notre Dame to lose to anywhere the rest of the way because 10-2 Notre Dame probably out at this point. So you want other teams to lose.
Pete, let's close out with, you mentioned Clemson there, but I also want to bring up that last game against South Carolina. I look at the job that Shane's done this year, Shane Beamer's done this year, and I'm like, not just because they beat A&M, but they're playing really good football. Well, how good of a team do you see South Carolina being? Because if they were to win out, and that's still a big if, they'd be a 9-3 team, and they would have a win over Texas A&M, they'd have a win over Clemson, they'd have some close games that they should have, could have won. Just how do you kind of categorize South Carolina?
Yeah, just on the outside looking in, I mean, there's other SEC, and we didn't bring up Missouri, who can't score, but they might have a great record, and so they might. So there's other SEC teams in this mix too, but great team. They're playing really well, and again, this is one of those programs where if you look at its history, they're kind of Vanderbilt plus. I mean, South Carolina's never won anything either, so it's not just a given that South Carolina football is going to win every year, and the fact that Beamer has done a good job of putting things together where they can compete and beat the really good teams like A&M here and there. This program's on the right track where, that's the nice part about the expanded college football playoff is now more teams have a shot. But at the same time, not everyone gets in. And, this is still a team that's definitely one of the 20 best teams in the country. He's done an amazing job this year. And you want, if you're a Texas A&M fan, going back to how the committee's going to look at all this, if Texas A&M keeps winning, if let's say South Carolina does beat Clemson and Clemson does win the ACC championship, then in that room in Grapevine, when they're arguing, they're like, yeah, A&M lost at South Carolina, but look, South Carolina beat the ACC champion, and so that's an acceptable road loss.
That is Pete Fiutak, College Football News. Pete, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Anytime. You have a great weekend.
You too, man. Pete Fiutak bringing it. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll do an open segment. You can call us up or you can text us. If you text us, we'll read it on the Little Sluggers text line, 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms hotline, that same number, 979-693-1150. Ground Shuttle is Brazos Valley's premier transportation provider. When you're going to George Bush Intercontinental Airport, you need help, guys, because when you're here in the Brazos Valley, let them do the driving for you. That's what Ground Shuttle is they specialize in, is getting you there on time, and they will do it, and they'll do it where you can kind of just relax, not worry about the the traffic, the parking, the construction, all that's going on there. They depart from the office right next to Casa de Brazil in South College Station, and they have 9 shuttle times on weekdays every hour and a half, and 5 shuttle times on the weekend every 2.5 hours. Excellent for business travelers, commuters, and of course, college students going back home for Thanksgiving or the Christmas holiday. You should reach out to Ground Shuttle. Their number is 855-303-4415. 855-303-4415. Ground Shuttle. Let them do the driving. GroundShuttle.com. And we are back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Find them online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com or on Highway 21 there in Caldwell. They're the place that I have gone for big reasons, right? They gave me the best price. I know they'll give you a great price. They gave me a great trade-in value. I know they'll give you a great trade-in value. They had an excellent selection. I know you want a selection. And they got great customer service. So you put that all together, you put it in a box, and you get yourself Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And it's the kind of place that you can go back and back to because they have complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers. And look, let's face it, if we're living in South College Station, you're living in North Bryan, and you have a busy job, you got kids to pick up, you need help, let them help you out, right? Just schedule it up. We'll come pick it up from here. We'll deliver it here. And they also have complimentary oil changes for the life of your vehicle as long as you own that vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Make that short drive and get a car buying experience like never before. 15 minutes, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Callie Gardner, you've got some playoff scenarios for us?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of get into the SEC championship first, and I think it's interesting because I feel like over the past at least 3 years, maybe a little bit more, this late in the season, and I say late, we still have 3 games to play, it was kind of obvious who at least one of the SEC championship contenders was going to be, if not both. And it was either always Georgia and Alabama, maybe LSU one year.
We don't know who it's going to be.
This year, you look at the most direct path for Texas to the SEC championship is winning out. That's it. Same thing for A&M, same thing for Tennessee. The most direct path for all 3 of those teams is to win out. And then you have Alabama.
2 of those teams will cancel each other out.
Right. Then you have Alabama, and their most direct path is also winning out, but they need Georgia to beat Tennessee. But, then what happens?
If Georgia beats Tennessee,
you've got it.
Bama gets it over Georgia, so Georgia would need Bama to also lose, or somebody else to lose.
Right. So it's chaos, and we're not going to have any answers after this weekend either. I guess with Georgia and the Tennessee game, you might, depending on who wins that game. But
see, I see A&M and Ole Miss in the SEC championship game as a very high likelihood. Right, really? I can see that happening. Again, well, who does Ole Miss have left on their schedule? Nick, do you have their schedule up there? Here we go. Look at that. He's always ready. Look at that, Nick. At Florida, they're going to win.
Yeah.
Sorry, they're going to win. And Mississippi State, right? So, yeah, I think they'll win out. I do. So, to me, I am so worried about the last 2 SEC games because of that reason. But the reason being the SEC championship game, because I really want it that bad. But I see A&M, what they do well, being a bad matchup for Texas. I see Auburn being a scary matchup for A&M just because it's on the road. Continue on.
Well, I look at the Auburn game, and then I kind of get scary flashbacks to A&M LSU in, what was that, 2022, when LSU had playoff hopes on the line. They came to College Station, and we just rattled them. And we were, 5 and 4 and 4 and
that was our last game of the year, so we were 4 and 7 or 4 and 7.
So we had, we had nothing to lose. And I think Auburn right now is in that similar situation. Are they?
We had Devon A-Chain.
Yes.
They have Jarquez Hunter, who's really good, by the way.
Are they playing for a bowl game? Do they have 6 wins yet?
Nick, go ahead.
They are 3 and 6.
Okay, so
they have to win out.
They have to win out.
That means they have to beat ranked A&M,
right,
and ranked Texas, along with some
Alabama.
Sorry, ranked A&M, ranked Alabama, and Monroe.
So that's how I look at that game. So that's why that game is scary to me. But I think I think the Aggies can get it done there. I just don't know what happens if you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-2 teams in the SEC.
Well, the easy thing to do is just, it doesn't matter if you're A&M. If you win these next 3 games,
right,
and we put the quote-unquote if, because nothing is guaranteed in the SEC, you will be favored against Auburn. That's going to be hard. I don't know if you'll be favored against Texas. I don't know.
Mhm.
Even if you're not, I don't think it's going to be a big line.
No.
It's at Kyle Field. Magical things happen at Kyle Field, especially at the end of seasons.
Yeah.
Why not?
Just
So-
looking at the I know we got to hit a break, but just looking at the standings as they sit now and the remaining schedules, the most likely outcome, which you can debate likely or not, whatever. It looks like it's most likely going to be Tennessee. If they beat Georgia this week, they're going to win out because they got UTEP and Vanderbilt, so they're in. If A&M wins out, they're in because everybody else in the conference will have at least 2 losses. A&M and Tennessee would be the only teams with 1 conference loss.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. We'll talk to Jordan Pugh, defensive-minded NFL star, going to be joining us here on the program. Former NFL star. If you buy insurance for anything, you owe it to yourself to explore the peace that accompanies a relationship-based, objective approach to managing risk. You should check out our good friends at Rollo Insurance at rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs and learn more today. Remember, insurance is not a commodity, and neither are you. Align yourself with people whose priorities are the same as you. God, family, and country. Go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs and start a no-pressure conversation with your own personal agent today. We finally have settled on our newest insurance opportunities because the twins are 16, and they will officially be done with driver's ed, I guess, in February because we started so late. So come February, watch out, College Station and Bryant, because those knuckleheads are going to be driving around town, although they're very safe, just like their dad. They wear a helmet in a car. It's weird. I just been doing that for a long time. Again, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs, not CheckSags, although we do have a big population of, never mind. Just check it out. I'm just rambling here. It's Rollo. As a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's here in a few minutes. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we find Jordan Pugh. JP, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Did you watch some college football this past weekend?
I did. I got to watch it a little bit.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of family things, man. So we cleaning, kind of house shopping since we got the next one on the way. So I had to go look for some houses, that kind of thing. But yeah, man, I got to actually, be a little fan this weekend and watch some games.
Can you make sense of the SEC? I think it's easy. A&M wins out. They'll take care of business, right? But can you make sense of all these teams that have like this bump? And this bump lasts a couple weeks, and then they fall off their bump. Texas had their early bump. Georgia started with a bump, fell, got another bump. Ole Miss fell, got their bump this past weekend. A&M had their bump. South Carolina brought them down. Just kind of talk a little bit about that, how as much as we try to put our finger on who the top team in the SEC is, it has evolved several different times.
Yeah, I just think it's just the nature of the beast. Where we are in the SEC. When you look at it, man, the parity all over the league is great, and I think a lot of it has to do with the transfer portal. A lot of it has to do with the NIL now because you can distribute. Our players can be distributed all over the place. But when you look at this league, man, there's a reason why we're the number one league when it comes to NFL players. When it comes to guys playing at the next level. And they're distributed everywhere. And I just think, man, the talent is equaled out. So when you look at it, man, from week to week, like we talked about before, each week is its own season. And there's going to be bumps along the road. And I think, man, and by having this, this 12-team playoff, it allows you to be able to overcome those bumps in the road, overcome those losses. And when you look at a league like we have, our league cannibalizes itself. We have the best talent. We have the best teams. And, man, it's just hard to win week in and week out. That's why winning is so precious. Winning is so hard to do. So, man, just looking at overall, it's one of those things, man, where I think football has been more exciting. I think that each week you don't know what is going to be. It's the greatest drama TV show going right now. And, man, it's just exciting overall. And I just love the parity within the league because each week you have to bring it. And that's what you love about the SEC. You want to be amongst the best.
Yeah, you want to be amongst the best. When I look at these projections, and Billy and I talked about teams that could make the playoffs, it's very possible the SEC only gets 3 teams in this playoff, while the Big Ten is almost likely to get 4. Right now, the SEC could get 4. But you see that, and I'm like, I still think the SEC is the better conference this year. But that's going to be a lot harder to win it in this 12-team playoff world if the Big Ten's got their 4. What if the ACC gets 2 in there? Like, I just mathematically, you just start looking at the matchups. What do you think? Is the SEC still the top conference?
Yeah, it's got to be the top conference. When you look at the SEC, we're beating ourselves. That's what it is, man. And you look at the win-loss record. Every win is not the same. Every loss is not the same. And when you look at the teams that are the games that teams are losing, Texas losing to Georgia losing to Ole Miss. We lose to South Carolina, but we're losing to a really good Notre Dame team. When you look at it, the majority of the losses that we have are coming against our own brothers in the conference. And so you're looking at a conference that is literally just beating itself. And so when you look at the Big Ten and the amount of teams, there's really 3 teams that you can say are dominant football teams. Well, really 2, because we don't know what Indiana is yet. But overall, our conference, man, I think one of the things that will grow frustrations within the SEC is how do we manage the 12-team playoff, this being the first year, seeing how the results play out. When you have, I think it's 8 teams within the top 25, if I'm not mistaken, if that's a correct statement. You have 8 teams within the top 25. You're going to knock each other off. How do we manage that moving forward as far as a conference? What does Greg Sankey do? But when you look at the Big Ten, it's not as deep of a conference. It's very, very top heavy. Really 2 teams that are truly top heavy. When you look at the SEC, man, you can go all the way down to the mid-level teams and they can beat anybody in the nation. Look what Vanderbilt is doing, right? So I just think it's one of those deals where man, the parity is there. There's a reason why everybody floods to the SEC. There's a reason why everybody wants to watch the SEC. There's a reason why everybody wants to play in the SEC. And I think that we'll have more teams than what people think at the end when it's all said and done, when it's all played out. Because when you look at the type of wins, when you look at the losses, and you compare that across the nation, it's hard to argue what we have in the SEC versus everybody else.
Talking to Jordan Pugh here on TexAgs Live. I'm going to read you this message that came in from the Aggie kid on YouTube. Nuño, if I told you I saw the future and told you that we'd beat Auburn, but we'd win by 3 to 7 points, would you be happy with that and say win is a win, or would you rather roll the dice and see another play come out? I'm not sure if I follow the second part of it, but I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to let you answer. All right? I'm sorry, I'm doing the reverse of what I should do.
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So the truth is, in the moment, I'm going to be disappointed they only won by 3 or 7. Right? Because I'm going to see the missed opportunities and I want to dominate teams. In reality, a win on the road at a place like Auburn where A&M has struggled, I don't care if you win by a half a point. If they, by somehow, Greg Sankey changes the rules, you can win by a half. I'll be happy. Just get that win and set up a de facto playoff game against Texas, and I'll roll the dice and I'll take it.
It doesn't matter how many you win by. It matters that you won. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, we're going to look at the win-loss column, right? Look, if we're looking at a team that controls its own destiny. We're looking at a team that, man, you handle your business. We're in Atlanta. It's about as simple as that. I don't care how it's done. Just get it done. Because, man, I'd rather you debate how we won after we won versus how we lost. So when you're looking at that, man, and let's say that does happen. Hey, congratulations to Texas A&M. We got a big one against Texas the next week, and let's handle business and go to Atlanta. A win is a win in this moment. In November, it doesn't matter. In November, we just need W's. That's all we need because we control our future. So how we win is irrelevant at this point.
All right. Are we undervaluing the injury to Le'Veon Moss, considering you've got a top 5 team on your schedule left, and you got to go on the road against a team that is not very good wins and losses wise, but they got a lot of talent in a place you've struggled with, because that's your best offensive player, right? And and as much as we believe in Amari Daniels, and I do, are we discounting the injury to Le'Veon or not?
No, we're not discounting it. We understand that it's there, but I don't think it's as big of a hurdle that we have to get over as what people make it. He is a dynamic football player. He is a great football player, and he's the best offensive weapon that we have. With that being said, I think Amari Daniels gets his opportunity to shine. I think he's a guy, man, that's been undervalued. We talked about that earlier in the year. We talked about how well he's played. We talked about the 100-plus rushing yards he's had, but it's just been quietly there just because Le'Veon's been playing so well. The reason why I think that it's not as big of a loss is because we have a guy named Marcel Reed who can use his feet as well. And I think when you have that, when you're coming off a bye week, you have another week to game plan, another week to utilize his skill set in the best possible way. It opens up more of the run game. So I don't think that is going to affect us as much as we think. We have 2 dynamic backs in the backfield. Overall, the depth hurts us. But, man, being able to add Marcel, you're adding another element to the run game. And I think that's why we'll be able to click. We'll be able to continue to move forward. We'll continue to strive in our run game, but it does hurt. Le'Veon is a hell of a player. I'm not making any mistakes or bones about that, but I think we have the personnel in order to continue to keep this train rolling.
I think a healthy Chase Basantis gives me that confidence about the run game. The offensive line's been okay, right? Since his injury, they've been okay. But Chase Basantis is a difference maker on that offensive line. So those plays, those 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, he makes all the difference in the world, I think, for this offense.
Well, look how good we've been playing with all the injuries we've had on the offensive line since game 1. And now that you're getting one of your stalwarts back, man, the one thing that we've noticed has really been since that Florida game, how we've been putting the opponents away in the run game late in games, from Florida to Arkansas down to LSU. And now you're adding another element back in that offense. That is huge. We need every piece now. Now we're getting down to the finish line. And the biggest thing that we talked about is finishing. Can we finish this thing off? And now getting a stalwart back, getting one of your most important pieces back on an offensive line is going to be huge. Remember, Amari Daniels is more than capable. E.J. Smith is more than capable. Marcel Reed as that other element, and we already know he's more than capable. Now you're adding those pieces back on the offensive line, more continuity, better players, more push. I think, man, this really helps us. And I think that the rest of the season and the schedule that we have moving forward helps us. If we look at the last 3 games, the 2 games that we have leading up to Texas, I think are going to be really good test for us, but it's going to allow us to be able to work some other elements within the offense too as well. Don't think for 1 second that coaches don't think about that and game plan moving forward. So I think there's going to be a big pickup for us.
Talking to Jordan Pugh here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, so this weekend against New Mexico State, what do you want to see, and what is something you certainly don't want to see?
First thing I want to see, defense. I want to see a shutout. And I know it's hard to do in this day and age, but we need to redeem ourselves from what we did against South Carolina. I want to see better tackling. I want to see our secondary play more aggressive, and I need to see more chaos created along the defensive line. That's the first thing I need to see. Special teams wise, keep going. We have played very well this year in special teams. I want to see that and stay consistent with that. Offensively, I want to see the pass game explode. That's what I need to see. We know that we can run the football. We know that we have the element with Marcel and his feet running the football, but now we got to be able to open this thing up in the passing game. Once we do that, once we can open up that passing game, open up those threats downfield, it is a problem for our opponents to handle now. Now that we have a mobile guy back there, we have a passing threat plus our run game, and we're getting our offensive lineman back. Those are the things that I need to see. I need to see complete and utter domination from a defensive standpoint. I need to see us excel from an offensive standpoint, especially in that pass game this week.
Jordan Pugh with us here on TexAgs Live. Jordan, I look at this team, man, and I want to see this. I want to see my offensive line and my defensive line play these next 3 games, and it starts with New Mexico State, angry. I don't know if I want my quarterback angry. I want my quarterback kind of level-headed, but I want to see like people who are just, they're so mad at what the last game felt like that these next 3 opponents need to feel it.
I don't think angry is the word you're looking for. I think the word you're looking for is urgency. That's what I think you're looking for. I want to see urgency. When you look at urgency, man, there's a reason why we do everything. Every play matters, and every play is crucial to the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is Atlanta. Right now, the ultimate goal is Atlanta. Get to Atlanta. We get to Atlanta, everything else falls in place. But I think if we play with more urgency, we play with a relentless effort, everything will fall into place. When I look at these next 3 games, we are more talented than all 3 teams that we play. I think we're better along the line of scrimmage. I think we have more dynamic playmakers overall than all 3 teams. Now, the thing that we have to do is we have to understand the urgency that comes with it. I think one of the best things that happened in that loss, and what you can learn from that loss against South Carolina, is everything is fleeting. Time is ticking, and you got to understand that the opportunities will soon fade away if you don't take advantage of it. And sometimes, man, being able to sit on that for 2 weeks, I think can propel us moving forward for the rest of the season. So urgency is the key word for the next 3 weeks. Urgency is the calling card for the next 3 weeks. And I think that's something that we could do.
Talk to you in a week, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, man, let's do it.
All right, Jordan Pugh there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with one final segment. If you're looking for a great place to satisfy those food cravings, you need to check out the Varsity Grill. I like the ribeye tacos. It's certain places you can get multiple things, and like when I go, like I always tell myself, I'm going to try this because it looks so good. My wife tried that. That's good. I get that. But and it's like I love the ribeye tacos when I go there. So I'm sure you'll have your favorite when you go there, and then you can try everything else that they have. It is a cool place to go to enjoy. Not a sports bar, but kind of sportsy vibe. Classy, elegant place. You're going to love it. I've been going since it opened up, and you'll love everything that they have there. They want to be your go-to destination for hosting unforgettable gatherings, and they want you to taste the difference. It is the Varsity Grill House, your home for good times and great food. We hope to see you there.
TexAgs Live.
All right, so I want to end the show with this thought. I've heard people, and I think Jordan alluded to it, and I've heard others say this. My mind doesn't work this way, that the South Carolina game might be a good thing, or is hopefully going to be a good thing, because whatever, right? Like you went through that, you're going to be refocused. I don't look at it that way. I will look at it that way if they win these next 3 games, right? Like if they win these next 3 games, I'll be like, you know what? That loss to South Carolina, in retrospect, might have been a good thing. But when we're still in the cloud of that loss, and now you have I would rather have a safety net, a loss to play with, than not. Now, some teams do play better with their backs against the wall. For instance, I feel like Buzz Williams' teams throughout the years, it feels like when you count them out, they're at their absolute best. Mm-hmm. We don't know what this A&M team's DNA is just yet. I feel like they're going to be really good with their backs against the wall and without their backs against the wall. But in a month, maybe we'll look back at that South Carolina game and be like, you know what? It sucks that they lost, but it came at the right time because they got to fix their tackling issues, and look what they did the last 3 games. They tackled like a bunch of maulers, right? Or, hopefully not, it could be like, ooh, it was a sign of things to come. And that's why I always pause on certain easy talk show talking points like, it's a good thing now because now you get refocused, you practice, you got a bye week, you get to tackle everybody. Yay! Everybody in the club getting tipsy. So, hopefully we can look at it as, all right, they were refocused and able to do what they have to do to win these next games. It is not the opposite, like, oh, they lost to South Carolina. Everybody sees the film on Marcel Reed. The dam is open, and, they finish, 8-4. That would be a disaster at this point.
Yeah.
8-4 would have sounded nice.
After the Notre Dame loss.
After the Notre Dame loss, right?
Yeah.
We don't want 8-4. We don't want the memes. We don't want the jokes. So what I guess to summarize, maybe the South Carolina loss came at a good time. I'm not allowing my mind to think of that. I'm looking at it kind of back to the word that Jordan said as urgency. No more mess ups, guys. Even against a top 5 Texas team, even against a team that you should dismantle on the road that plays teams tough. They got a lot of talent. They just haven't been able to figure it out. I think Peyton Thorne's going to be running for his life, but take care of business against New Mexico first. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Live here on a Tuesday. Tomorrow on the program, remind me, John Harris, Peter Burns.
I've usually got this on the top of my head, but for some reason.
Mr. Huxtable. That and more. Thank you so much for your time. And actually, he got canceled. Disregard. He won't be on the show. Theo will be. That and more is TexAgs Live.